patient while driving suddenly becomes symptomatic. He then decides to pull over to the side of the road and call 911. The ambulance suddenly arrives and then takes him to Atlantic Health Emergency Department.
Hi, so I'm going to walk you through Edward Sparrett's visit to Atlantic Health Systems ED. And as you see here, the system that we're working in is the Horizon Clinicals application. And this is the system that Atlantic Health System uses to treat patients. Now, one thing to note is that Edward Sparrett has already been registered and an ADT has been sent to Relay Health. Along the ADT includes a patient's email address, so that patient is invited to use the personal health record that's offered free for patients to access their clinical data through Jersey Health Connect. So in the Horizon Clinicals application, the first thing that I'm going to do is add a problem. And this patient is being treated for diabetes. So I'm going to select diabetes, save this, and add a medication to treat the patient. Add the strength, the frequency, save this. And the last thing I'm going to do is add an allergy. So the patient lets me know that they are allergic to shellfish. So I'm adding all of this in my clinicals application. And once the patient is discharged, all of the data that you just saw will create a continuity of care document, and that document will be sent to Relay Health electronically, and that data will be available to the patient and to any other Jersey Health Connect physician or user.
The patient is discharged and returns home where they can access their records from home.
So now I have been discharged from the hospital, and I'm going to log in to access my personal health record to make sure that the information from the hospital is now become part of my personal record. So I sign in securely to Relay Health. And I'm going to click on my Health Records tab. And I can see that the medications that were prescribed to me in the hospital have now come across, and you can tell that, I can tell that because the source is the hospital. I see the allergy that was also documented in the hospital. And as I'm looking through this, I'm going to add an additional medication that I'm taking over the counter. So I'm going to add vitamin D to my personal health record. So now I know that the vitamin D has become part of my personal health record, and I am the source of that medication.
As recommended, Edward Sparrett has to visit his primary care physician, Dr. Karen Young.
I'll be logging in as Edward Sparrett's primary care physician, Dr. Young, and I'm using the Relay Health portal that's used by Jersey Health Connect HIE. Now, this portal is something that can be accessed from an internet or broadband internet connectivity, or we can integrate this into a physician's EMR workflow. So once I'm in the system, you can see that we rebrand the page to our customer's name. And under the patient search, we can search for Edward Sparrett. Now this is Edward's relay record that includes clinical and demographic data. At the top you see that Edward Sparrett is online. That means that Edward has created a personal health record, and Edward can communicate with my office to schedule appointment requests, prescription renewals. I also have multiple IDs, and within the Relay Health application we can take different IDs, attach them to the patient. So each source that's feeding us data will not have to change their patient identity schema, but we support multiple IDs and we match the patient within our product. You'll also notice that we have an email on file, and that's how Edward is notified of any new messages or new data that's added on his PHR. And if I scroll down, this is the chart view. So under the summary area, you see that there's a problem, some medications, and allergy. If I go to the medications tab, I can drill down into the source of the data, and I can see that glyburide was actually added from the clinical's Horizon system, and this is from the Atlantic Health System ED. We also see that the patient added an over-the-counter vitamin D that they're taking, and as I treat the patient, I'm going to add another medication, lisinopril. Now, if I had formulary, then I could just take this from the patient's drug RX hub history. I'll add the quantity and the sig. I'm adding that. Now, we do see that there is a potential drug interaction between lisinopril and glyburide. Now, we're going to ignore this. However, we can always discontinue any medication if the physician chooses to. So the last thing that I'm going to show you here when I'm logged in as the primary care physician is under Actions, the physician can actually send a referral message to Dr. Gamble. Now, I've already added Dr. Gamble to my address book. And Dr. Gamble is outside of the Jersey Health Connect website. However, he's part of Virtua, so we're going to fax this referral to Dr. Gamble. In the future, this will be electronic. It could be done through NHIN Direct or any other CCD standards. Now we're going to say that this is a consultation. I've created a message template already. Oops. So I'll select this message template, and I can just quickly update. And we'll just let the specialist know that this patient was treated at Atlantic Health System, ED. If we wanted to attach any documentation, we could do so, and it would be converted to a fax within Relay Health. And once this referral is sent to Dr. Gamble, then he can query from Relay Health the clinical data on this patient, and that's what you'll see next.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jim Gamble from Virtua, and I am playing the role of the endocrinologist. Mr. Sparrett has come to me from his primary, and I'm going to see him for this office visit using my EMR, which is a next-gen product. So, at this point I have the EMR open and I have my encounter ready to go. In the ideal situation, when we have this system completely constructed, the CCD from the patient's primary would have been automatically populated into my EMR as discrete data. But we don't have the full interface built at this point. But I still have access to his data from his primary by going to the Virtua Health Information Exchange, which is a WellLogic product. So I'm going to bring up the Virtua HIE, and I can at this point do a search for my patient. And again, this is Mr. Edward Sparrett, and I can open his chart. And again, the Virtua HIE is able to access data from any source to which it is connected. And since it's connected to the HIE that his primary is affiliated with, I will be able to see Mr. Sparrett's data. Okay, so at this point, Over here on the left side, all of the dates of information that is available are listed, and by choosing one, I am then able to look at any CCDs that have been sent in on this patient from any of the sources to which we're connected. By clicking on one, I'm able to then view the CCD, which contains the medical data that was sent in by the patient's primary. I can then enter this data manually into my EMR. Again, in the very near future, this data will be able to automatically publish into my EMR. Now, I'm going to go back and in the next-gen EMR, I'm going to enter my office visit. And again, for the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to enter a few pieces of information. Enter blood pressure. And I'm going to change one of the medications. I'm going to add metformin. And again, obviously I would be doing a more extensive visit, but for demonstration purposes, I'm now going to generate manually a CCD to be able to send up to the Virtua Health Information Exchange. Now again, in the very near future, this CCD will be able to be automatically generated once I complete my encounter. But at this point, I'm going to show you the manual process. I can choose all of this patient's encounters, or I can choose specific elements of any one encounter. In this case, I'm going to pick today's encounter and include all of the elements. I'm going to export the encounter data. And as you can see, the CCD has been generated, including the new medication. So at this point, I can then have this CCD sent up to the Virtua Health Information Exchange, where it's available to be viewed by anyone who has access to the HIE.
Hi, so what you just saw in the previous two demos was interoperability made live across 3 different vendors. You saw records being assembled out of an emergency department from a McKesson system, records being pulled from a patient record, pulled together into Relay Health's Health Information Exchange, published using modern IHE standards to the WellLogic Exchange, or alternatively queried from the WellLogic Exchange in a different community, real time, and displayed to a primary care doctor as he prepared for a visit. So everything that happened in the McKesson relay systems in the other community was pulled and displayed to that doctor so that he could then prepare for a visit that he then completed in his own ambulatory EHR, which is a next-gen product. He entered the patient observations, entered his orders, completed the exam, and when he was done, as a part of his workflow, the doctor then went ahead and published the encounter information back out to the community. And so at the end of it all, you had the patient's information from 2 different communities, from an ED visit, from some patient-reported information, and from an ambulatory visit in a different community, all come together in one place in the WellLogic HIE, visible within the WellLogic portal.